Kyle Brennan was 32 years old when he walked out of Riverside State Correctional Facility after serving 18 months for a crime he didn't commit. The iron gates closed behind him with a sound that would haunt him for years, but that sound was nothing compared to what waited for him on the outside. His wife, Amanda, had sent him there, and her new boyfriend, Detective Lucas Kane, had made sure the case was airtight. Kyle carried everything he owned in a clear plastic bag. One change of clothes, $47 in commissary money, and a letter from his court-appointed attorney that basically said, "Sorry, we couldn't prove your innocence, but at least you only got 18 months instead of 5 years. The November air bit through his thin jacket. Kyle hadn't felt real cold in 18 months. Prison was temperature-controlled, 72 degrees year-round, like living inside a refrigerator that never quite froze you, but never let you get warm either. He stood on the sidewalk, watching cars pass, trying to remember what freedom felt like. A black Honda Accord pulled up. The window rolled down. Inside sat Vincent Shaw, Kyle's best friend since third grade, the only person who'd visited him every single month without fail. "Get in, man," Vincent said quietly. Kyle slid into the passenger seat. They sat in silence for almost 5 minutes before Vincent spoke again. "I've got everything ready. New apartment in Riverside District, 45 minutes from here. Already paid first and last month's rent, $3,200. Job lined up at my uncle's construction company. Starts Monday. Pays $19 per hour. Not great, but it's honest work." "Thank you." Kyle's voice came out rough. He hadn't used it much in prison. Talking got you noticed, and being noticed got you hurt. "You don't need to thank me." Vincent pulled onto the highway. "You need to tell me what you want to do about Amanda and Kane." Kyle watched the landscape blur past. Trees, buildings, people living normal lives. "I don't know yet." But that was a lie. Kyle knew exactly what he wanted. He wanted the truth. The truth about how his wife of 7 years had looked him in the eyes and lied to police. How she'd claimed he'd assaulted her on the night of March 14th, 2 years ago. How she'd shown up to the police station with bruises on her arms and neck, crying, terrified, spinning a story about her husband's violent rage. How Detective Lucas Kane had taken her statement personally, had pushed the case hard, had made sure Kyle's bail was set at $75,000, which might as well have been $75 million for a warehouse supervisor making $43,000 a year. Kyle had sat in county jail for 4 months before trial. His public defender, a tired woman named Ruth Collins, who juggled 60 cases at once, had advised him to take a plea deal. "The evidence is strong," she'd said. "Your wife's testimony, medical photos, a neighbor who heard shouting. We go to trial, you could get 5 years. Take the plea, you do 18 months, maybe less with good behavior." "But I didn't do it," Kyle had insisted. "I believe you," Ruth had said, and he could tell she actually did. "But belief doesn't win cases, evidence does. And right now, the evidence says you're guilty." Before we continue with Kyle's story and the shocking truth he discovers, I need to ask you something. If you're watching this, you're clearly someone who appreciates real stories about real injustice. You're not here for mindless content. You're here because you understand that sometimes the truth is buried and someone needs to dig it up. So here's what I want you to do. If you believe that truth matters, that justice matters, subscribe to StoryMode Folktales right now. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Because people like you, people who care about these stories, you're the reason I can keep sharing them. Don't just watch and leave. Be part of this community. Subscribe, like, comment. Let's continue. So Kyle took the plea. Assault and battery, domestic violence, 18 months in Riverside State Correctional Facility, loss of his job, loss of his reputation, loss of everything he'd built. And Amanda? She'd filed for divorce 2 weeks after his sentencing, took the house they'd bought together, the car, the savings account with $11,300 they'd been putting away for a down payment on a bigger place when they had kids. Kyle got nothing except a prison number and a cell shared with a meth dealer named Curtis, who snored like a chainsaw and talked constantly about conspiracy theories. Now sitting in Vincent's car, Kyle felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in 18 months. Rage. Not the hot, explosive kind that gets you thrown in solitary, but cold, calculating rage. The kind that waits, the kind that plans. Vincent, Kyle said slowly, I need you to tell me everything you know about Amanda and Kane. Vincent's jaw tightened. You sure you want to hear this? Every detail. Okay. Vincent took a deep breath. Kane started working at the precinct about 2 months before your arrest, transferred from Metro Division. Amanda met him when she filed a noise complaint about the neighbors. That was January, 2 months before the incident. They started having coffee, then lunch. Then I started seeing Kane's car parked outside your house when you were at work. Kyle's hands clenched. You saw this? 3 times. January 28th, February 11th, and March 2nd. I took photos. Brought them to your lawyer. Ruth never mentioned photos. Because Kane killed them, Vincent said bitterly. Ruth called me, said the photos were inadmissible. Chain of custody issues. No way to prove when they were taken. No way to prove it was Kane's car. No way to prove anything. So they were having an affair. 100%, and it gets worse. Vincent merged onto the exit ramp. 2 weeks after your sentencing, Kane got promoted to detective first grade. Salary jumped from $68,000 to $87,000. He and Amanda moved into a condo in Harbor View. Rent is $3,500 a month. They drive matching BMWs. She quit her job at the dental office. Now she does lifestyle blogging on Instagram, calls herself Amanda Kane, not Amanda Brennan anymore. Kyle felt sick. She took his name? Not legally, not yet, but that's how she brands herself. 23,000 followers. Posts about her perfect life with her perfect boyfriend who saved her from her abusive ex-husband. The car pulled up to a modest apartment building in Riverside District. Brown brick, 6 stories, the kind of place where people minded their own business. Vincent handed Kyle a key. 3rd floor, apartment 3D. I put some basics inside. Food, toiletries, clothes in your size. Bed's made, TV works, internet's connected. Kyle took the key. His hand was shaking. I don't know how to repay you. You don't need to repay me. You need to clear your name. And I'm going to help you do it. How? Because I never stopped investigating. Vincent pulled out his phone. I've spent the last 18 months digging into Kane and Amanda, and what I found is going to blow this whole thing open. Kyle leaned forward. What did you find? Not here. Vincent glanced around. Inside. Walls have ears. They climbed 3 flights of stairs. The apartment was small but clean. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchenette, and a living room barely big enough for a couch and TV. But after 18 months in an 8x10 cell, it felt like a mansion. Vincent locked the door behind them, pulled the curtains closed, and spread a folder of documents across the coffee table. Okay, here's what I know. Lucas Kane has been a dirty cop for years. He's been under internal affairs investigation twice. Once in Metro Division for evidence tampering, once in his current precinct for excessive force. Both times cases were dropped due to lack of evidence. Kyle picked up a police report. How did you get these? I've got a friend in records. Owes me a favor from way back. She pulled Kane's complete file. Took her 6 months to do it without getting caught. But she did it. Kyle read through the documents, his blood growing colder with each page. Lucas Kane wasn't just a dirty cop. He was a predator. 3 complaints from women claiming he'd been inappropriate during investigations. 2 lawsuits settled quietly by the city for a total of $78,000. 1 restraining order filed by an ex-girlfriend, later withdrawn under mysterious circumstances. But here's the smoking gun. Vincent pulled out a different file. 3 months before your arrest, Kane was dating a woman named Brenda Mitchell. She filed a domestic violence report against him, said he choked her during an argument, said he threatened to kill her if she ever left him. Kyle's heart stopped. What happened to the report? Disappeared, completely scrubbed from the system. But Brenda kept copies. She's terrified of Kane, moved to Oregon to get away from him. But she talked to me on the phone, sent me everything. Does this prove Amanda lied? Not directly, but it proves Kane has a pattern, and there's more. Vincent pulled out his laptop, opened it, started typing. I hired a private investigator. Cost me $7,000 I didn't really have, But it was worth it. He tracked Amanda's movements the night of March 14th, the night she claimed you assaulted her. Kyle's pulse raced. And she wasn't home when you got off work at 6 in the evening. According to your original timeline, you got home at 6:20. She was already there with injuries. You called 911 at 6:37, right? Right. She was hysterical, crying. I thought she'd been attacked by someone else. That's why I called 911, to help her. But here's the thing. Vincent turned the laptop screen toward Kyle. Cell tower data shows Amanda's phone was pinging near Riverside Park from 4 in the afternoon until 6:10, 10 minutes before you got home. Kyle stared at the map. She wasn't home. She wasn't home. And Kane's phone? Same tower, same time frame. They were together. But the injuries were real. I saw them. The police saw them. The photos don't lie. No, they don't. But who caused the injuries? Vincent pulled up more photos. The medical examiner estimated the bruises were inflicted between 4:30 and 5:30 in the afternoon, based on discoloration and swelling. You were at work until 6. Your supervisor confirmed it. 37 other warehouse employees confirmed it. But Kane had the day off, and he was with Amanda. The pieces clicked together in Kyle's mind like a lock opening. Kane hurt her. Kane hurt her. And then they blamed you. A domestic violence charge on your record means you're radioactive. No custody rights if you'd had kids. Limited job prospects. You'd be destroyed. Meanwhile, Amanda gets the house, the money, and a boyfriend who's a decorated detective. And Kane gets a girlfriend who'll never leave him because she's complicit in sending an innocent man to prison. Kyle stood up, paced the tiny apartment. His whole body felt electric. We need to take this to someone. Who? Kane's department? They covered for him twice already. The DA's office? They prosecuted you. They're not going to admit they put an innocent man away. Then what do we do? Vincent closed his laptop. We go to the media. We blow this up so big they can't ignore it. But we need more. We need Amanda to confess. That's never going to happen. Maybe it will. If we make her think Kane's turning on her. Kyle stopped pacing. What do you mean? I've been watching them for months. Their relationship is falling apart. Kane's got a temper. I've seen them arguing in public. Twice I saw her with fresh bruises she tried to cover with makeup. She's scared of him, Kyle. Just like Brenda was. Just like Kane's other victims were. If we can convince Amanda that Kane's going to throw her under the bus to save himself, she might flip. How do we do that? We need to get close to her. Make her trust someone. Make her think she's got a way out. Kyle shook his head. She's not going to trust me. Not you, but maybe someone else. Vincent pulled up an Instagram profile on his phone. This is Melissa Torres. She's a victim's advocate. Works with women escaping domestic violence. Very active online. Very vocal. Amanda follows her, comments on her posts. If Melissa reached out to Amanda, expressed concern about seeing bruises in her photos, offered help, Amanda might open up. You think Melissa would help us? I already asked her. Told her the whole story. She's willing to try. She thinks Kane's a monster who needs to be stopped. And she thinks Amanda's a victim now, even if she started as an accomplice. Kyle felt something he hadn't felt in 18 months. Hope. Real, genuine hope. When do we start? Tomorrow, but tonight you rest. You've been through hell. Take a hot shower, sleep in a real bed, eat real food. We've got a long fight ahead of us, and you need to be ready. That night, Kyle stood in the shower for 45 minutes, letting hot water pound against his back. In prison, showers were 3 minutes. Cold water, with guards watching. This felt like luxury, like freedom, like being human again. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Amanda, the woman he'd loved for 7 years, the woman he'd proposed to on a beach in Santa Monica, who'd cried and said yes, who'd walked down the aisle in a dress that cost $2,300 they'd saved for together. Where had she gone? When had she become someone who could send an innocent man to prison? Or had she always been capable of this, and Kyle just hadn't seen it? If you're still watching this story, you're invested in Kyle's fight for justice. You want to know what happens next. So let me ask you something. Are you subscribed to StoryMode Folktales? Because if you're not, you're missing out on stories exactly like this one every single day. Hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications. Be part of this journey. And drop a comment telling me what you think Kyle should do next. Should he forgive Amanda if she confesses? Or should he make sure she faces the consequences? Tell me in the comments. Now let's see what happens. The next morning, Vincent arrived at 7:30 with coffee and breakfast sandwiches. Melissa's meeting with Amanda today, 3 in the afternoon at a coffee shop in Harbor View. She's going to approach it carefully. Just expressing concern as one woman to another. Kyle bit into his sandwich. Real bacon, real eggs, real cheese. Everything in prison had tasted like cardboard and regret. What if Amanda shuts her down? Then we try something else. But I don't think she will. I think Amanda's drowning and looking for a life raft. Kane's got her trapped just like he trapped Brenda. Just like he trapped those other women. Men like Kane don't change. They escalate. The day dragged on. Kyle tried to watch TV, but couldn't focus. Tried to read a book Vincent had brought, but the words blurred together. At 2:45, his phone buzzed. A cheap prepaid cell Vincent had bought him. Unknown number. Kyle answered cautiously. Hello? Kyle Brennan? A woman's voice. Professional, careful. This is Melissa Torres. Vincent gave me your number. I wanted to give you an update before I meet with your wife. Kyle's heart hammered. Did something happen? She called me first, Melissa said. This morning. Said she'd been following my work. Said she needed help but was scared to reach out. She's meeting me in 30 minutes at Harper's Coffee on Maritime Street. I'm heading there now, but I wanted you to know this feels real. She sounds desperate. After Melissa hung up, Kyle sat frozen. Vincent was right. Amanda was drowning. And maybe, just maybe, she was ready to grab the life raft. Vincent showed up an hour later with his laptop. Melissa just texted, "You need to hear this." He pulled up an audio file. Melissa had recorded the conversation with Amanda's knowledge, claiming it was for case documentation. What Kyle heard made his blood boil and break his heart at the same time. Amanda's voice shaking, tearful, confessing everything. It was supposed to be simple, Amanda said on the recording. Lucas said we'd just file a report. Say Kyle got rough with me once. Get a restraining order. Then I'd divorce him, we'd split assets, and I'd move on. But Lucas wanted more. He said if we made it serious enough, if we made it criminal, Kyle would be too destroyed to fight anything. I'd get everything. So you agreed to let him hurt you? Melissa's voice was gentle but firm. He told me it would just be some bruises. Nothing permanent. He said he'd done it before with other women, helped them escape bad relationships. He made it sound noble, like he was protecting me. But Kyle wasn't a bad husband. No. Amanda's voice cracked. Kyle was good. He worked hard. He was faithful. He wanted kids. He wanted a future with me. But Lucas was exciting. He was dangerous. He made me feel alive in a way Kyle never did. And I was stupid enough to think I could have both. The stability Kyle gave me and the excitement Lucas offered. What changed? Lucas changed. After Kyle went to prison, Lucas got possessive, jealous, controlling. He checks my phone constantly, questions where I go, who I talk to. Last month, we had an argument about dinner plans and he grabbed my throat. Not hard enough to leave marks, but hard enough to scare me. And I realized I'd made a terrible mistake. I'd sent a good man to prison to be with a monster. Melissa's voice remained steady. Are you willing to tell the truth? To recant your testimony? Amanda sobbed. If I do that, I'll go to prison. False testimony, perjury, conspiracy. I could get years. Maybe. Or maybe the DA will offer you a deal in exchange for testimony against Kane. A dirty cop makes bigger headlines than a mistaken wife. But Lucas will kill me. I'm serious. He told me what he did to his ex-girlfriend Brenda, how he made her life hell until she ran away. He said if I ever tried to leave him, he'd make sure I disappeared. That's why you need protection, and the only way to get protection is to tell the truth and let the system handle Kane properly this time. There was a long silence on the recording. Then Amanda spoke again, her voice small. What do I have to do? Vincent paused the audio. She's willing to testify. Melissa's putting her in touch with the FBI. Apparently, there's a federal task force investigating corruption in Kane's department. They've been building a case against him for 8 months. Amanda's testimony could be the piece they need. Kyle felt dizzy. The FBI? Kane's in bed with some organized crime figures. He's been taking payoffs to look the other way on drug trafficking. The task force has been trying to flip someone close to him. Amanda's perfect. When does this happen? Melissa's bringing her to the federal building tomorrow morning at 9. They'll take her statement, put her in protective custody, and move forward with charges against Kane. But there's something else. Vincent's expression turned serious. You need to decide what you want. Do you want revenge? Do you want justice? Do you want Amanda to pay for what she did? Because those might be 3 different things. Kyle walked to the window, looked out at the city. He'd spent 18 months in a cage, stripped of everything. His reputation, his freedom, his future. All because Amanda had been selfish and Kane had been evil. What did he want? I want my name cleared, Kyle said finally. I want Kane in prison where he belongs. And I want Amanda to face consequences, but not because I hate her. Because people need to know that lying to police, sending innocent people to prison, that has a cost. That's fair, Vincent nodded. The FBI agent handling the case wants to meet with you tomorrow. Melissa's coordinating everything. The next morning, Kyle sat in a federal building conference room across from Special Agent Nicole Webster and Assistant U.S. Attorney David Monroe. On the screen in front of them, Amanda's sworn statement played. She confessed to everything. The affair, the plan, Kane's assault on her, the false testimony, the conspiracy. She produced text messages between her and Kane discussing the scheme. She revealed Kane's connections to drug traffickers, including names, dates, and locations of meetings she'd witnessed. By the time the video ended, Agent Webster looked satisfied. This is enough. We're arresting Kane today. We'll simultaneously move to vacate your conviction, Mr. Brennan. You should be officially exonerated within a week. What happens to Amanda? Kyle asked. Attorney Monroe leaned forward. She's pleading guilty to perjury and conspiracy. She'll serve 18 months in minimum security facility, same time you served. After that, 3 years probation. She's also agreed to pay restitution in the amount of $25,000 for your legal fees and lost wages. And Kane? Kane's facing 47 federal charges: corruption, evidence tampering, assault, witness intimidation, conspiracy with organized crime figures. He's looking at 25 to 30 years, federal prison, no parole. Kyle absorbed this. Justice, real justice. Not the fake version that had sent him to prison, but actual accountability. 3 days later, Kyle stood outside Riverside State Correctional Facility again. But this time, he wasn't alone. Vincent stood beside him, along with Kyle's parents who'd driven 12 hours from Arizona, and a crowd of reporters. Agent Webster approached the microphones. Today, we've arrested Detective Lucas Kane on multiple federal charges related to corruption and abuse of power. We've also moved to vacate the conviction of Kyle Brennan, who was wrongfully imprisoned based on false testimony orchestrated by Detective Kane and Amanda Brennan. Mr. Brennan's record will be fully expunged. He will receive compensation from the state for wrongful conviction, and we are pursuing additional civil remedies on his behalf. The reporters shouted questions, but Kyle didn't hear them. He heard only the sound of the gates closing, the same sound from 18 months ago, but this time he was on the right side of them. Amanda received her sentence 4 months later. Kyle attended the hearing. She looked small in her orange jumpsuit, her hair pulled back, no makeup, no designer clothes, no Instagram filters, just a scared woman facing the consequences of her choices. Before the bailiff led her away, she turned to Kyle. I'm sorry, she mouthed. Kyle nodded once. He didn't forgive her. Maybe he never would, but he didn't hate her anymore either. Hate was too heavy to carry. 6 months after his release, Kyle stood in the same construction site where he'd started working the day after getting out of prison. But now he wasn't just a worker. Vincent's uncle had promoted him to site supervisor. $33 per hour, full benefits, respect from his crew. His record was cleared. His name was restored. The city had awarded him $475,000 in compensation for wrongful conviction. He'd used some of it to buy a small house in Riverside District. Not fancy, but his. Lucas Kane was serving 28 years in federal prison. Appeals were denied. He'd never be a cop again. He'd never hurt another woman again. And Amanda? She was released after serving her full 18 months. Last Kyle heard, she'd moved to another state, changed her name, and was working as a cashier somewhere quiet. Maybe she'd learned something. Maybe she hadn't. Either way, she was no longer Kyle's problem. Kyle learned something profound through his ordeal. Evil often hides behind badges and smiles. Justice isn't always swift, but it can be certain if you're patient and you've got people who believe in you. And forgiveness isn't about letting people off the hook. It's about refusing to let their actions define your future. Some people will betray you in ways you never imagined, but others will stand by you in ways that restore your faith in humanity. Vincent had spent $7,000 he didn't have, 18 months of his life, and countless hours fighting for Kyle's freedom. That kind of friendship doesn't come from obligation. It comes from love. And that's worth more than any compensation check. Remember this, when you're wronged, you have choices. You can become bitter, let it destroy you from the inside. You can seek revenge, which might feel good temporarily, but ultimately makes you just as bad as the people who hurt you. Or you can seek justice, which is harder, takes longer, but leaves you whole at the end. Kyle chose justice. And in choosing justice, he saved not just himself, but potentially dozens of other victims Kane would have hurt if he'd remained free. If this story moved you, if it made you think about truth, justice, and the power of having people who believe in you, then do me a favor. Subscribe to StoryMode Folktales right now. Hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me what you thought about Kyle's story. And remember this, your reputation is built over years but can be destroyed in minutes by people with selfish intentions. Protect it fiercely, but also protect your soul. Don't let what others do to you turn you into someone you're not. Stay strong, stay honest, and always, always fight for the truth. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.